I cannot hear anything that Caden just said. So, I'm going to assume that hopefully he welcomed you guys to the podcast. If not, welcome. It doesn't seem like Debbie thinks I'm taking it, but I'm talking. So if he can't hear me, that's not. Oh, now it's telling me to keep going. Well, I couldn't hear a single thing. Well, welcome to K&A Football. This is a really awkward intro, but I'm very glad to be back. Obviously, I was out sick for the last 2 weeks, so very happy to be back. Really excited to jump into all the football that I've missed, all the football of the last week over Thanksgiving. I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving holiday. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Welcome to K&A Football. I'm going to assume that Caden is not yet back, because I couldn't hear him when we started, and considering that he is not on the screen with me, I'm going to assume that we cannot hear him. So I'm not exactly sure where to go from here, because I think we're supposed to jump into our top 3 plays of the week, but I would imagine that Debbie is readily working on Caden's microphone situation. So I guess we can try. Debbie, are we able to do the top 3 plays of the week here? No, we are not able to do that. Okay. So I'm not exactly sure where we're going to go from here. So I guess we're going to jump right into the games here. So for starters, we have the Giants and Cowboys. There we go. Giants and Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day. Gonna be honest with all of you, did not watch much of this game. I was watching the first Gladiator movie in preparation for watching the second Gladiator movie that same day. It's a lot of hours. It was 6 hours of Gladiator. But I was rooting for the Giants to win this game because if you remember a couple weeks ago, I had the Hail Mary that the Cowboys would finish only with 5 games. And
can you hear me, Austin?
Yes, I can hear you.
Dude, what just happened?
That was rough.
What actually just happened? All right, let's. Can we just restart that, Debbie, somehow?
No.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure we're live, Caden.
Start with the top 3 plays, but do it.
Okay. Well, we're gonna rewind. Okay. Before we hit the top 3 plays, before we hit the recapping last week's games, before Austin was even going to get a word in, I wanted to address the elephant in the room. Debbie, if you can go ahead and roll the clip, I would appreciate that. Debbie is working on that. But before Austin even wanted to get a word in, I wanted this to play.
You would want this to play.
No, you cannot speak. We're just watching a clip. I don't hear audio, Debbie. Okay. Well, maybe this episode is just literally going to the wash.
Can you hear it?
No, I cannot hear it, but that's okay. Austin, obviously.
It's going.
So Austin obviously was, dogging on Deebo Samuel for getting pneumonia, saying, how do you get pneumonia in 2024? How does somebody get pneumonia anymore? That's sad, blah, blah, blah. And now we've gone 3 straight weeks without Austin here on the podcast sitting across from me. Not that he ever sits across from me. He's always sitting on the screen in front of me. But Austin is finally back because he was struggling with pneumonia himself. So Austin, let's hear what you have to say now. Do you have any apologies to Mr. Deebo Samuel? Have you reached out to Mr. Deebo Samuel? how's those conversations with Debo gone, and how you feeling right now?
Yeah, I mean, I did reach out to Debo. Tried to get in contact, had to make an apology because I mean, that's what professionals do. But Debo has not responded to any of my communications. He has not responded for comment yet. So hopefully he gets around to that. I mean, I don't know what he could be up to or why he wouldn't respond to us. I mean, we're a pretty big following, so I mean, I personally wouldn't want that kind of bad publicity if I were him. But I do still think that it is kind of on Debo Samuel. And the team doctor. It's as bad as the pneumonia was. I am just like a 20-year-old college student who is not getting nearly enough sleep or nearly enough nutrition at the dining hall. So it's kind of no wonder that I got pneumonia. But I mean, Debo Samuel's a professional athlete. He's getting the best nutrition in the world.
No way, you're still dogging on him. You are still.
He really
that is
shouldn't have got
absurd
it.
of
That
you.
is not-
That is so
it is
absurd.
not
of
on
Or is
you.
it actually
It is
doubling
on
down?
him.
This is crazy.
I am
He wants
doubling
pneumonia
down.
again. He
I am
wants
doubling
pneumonia
down.
again. He wants
Look,
to skip
maybe-
school
maybe-
and be at home and be in the hospital and have more
Maybe it
pneumonia.
would be
That
a
is
different
literally what you
story
just said on the
if Debo
podcast.
decided to respond to my generous apology, but since he hasn't, Debo Samuel, that is on you. It is your fault you got sick, and it's not mine.
Okay. Well, you just asked for more pneumonia, so we'll see what happens in the next
More
coming
pneumonia
weeks.
would be
But
awful. That was one of the worst experiences of my life.
But we are ultimately glad you're back. But now we're going to jump into the top 3 plays of the week, and it's going to start us off with Leonard Williams' long big man pick 6 against his former team, the New York Jets. So they're playing, and the Jets are kind of rolling at this point in the game, but they go ahead. Jets have a chance to go ahead and take a 28-7 lead, and Leonard Williams does this. Aaron Rodgers drops back and he throws, and Williams bats it up in the air and picks it off himself and runs it back 90 yards for the long big man touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the Jets were cruising at this point. You had texted me because we were the guy that I was playing in our dynasty league. We were really, no offense, Sue Ellen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no offense, Sue Ellen, but we were vying for your loss. And you had texted me, Kate, and you were like, "Oh, you should have started Aaron Rodgers. He's cooking right now. He's already got 2 touchdowns." So I was, following the game a little bit, and then I get the notification, it's like 90-yard big man interception. I'm like, I feel like that's probably on my guy. And it was. So, I mean, that was a really big turning point in this game. I mean, we'll get to the game in a little bit, but obviously that stopped a lot of momentum and kind of swung it the other way.
Mm-hmm. And our next top play of the week is actually from another snow game. So we have back-to-back weeks with a crazy snow game play, and this one is another QB touchdown. So Josh Allen, he goes ahead. Debbie, if you want to start rolling the clip here, Josh Allen makes a pretty bad pass to Amari Cooper, who makes a great catch, but then he goes ahead and flips it to Josh Allen, who then Josh Allen runs it in and scores, which is a receiving touchdown. Goes in the stats as a receiving touchdown for Josh Allen. So incredible play by Josh Allen. He went ahead and had a passing touchdown, receiving touchdown, and rushing touchdown all in the same game. So Josh Allen, he really, after this game, has cemented himself as the clear front runner in the MVP race so far this season, and it was ultimately a great play by Josh Allen.
Yeah. I didn't get to watch this game either, which I'll talk about when the game comes up because some unfortunate circumstances led to the situation where I could not watch this. But I ran into my brother after the game was over, and he was like, "Oh my goodness, did you see the crazy Josh Allen play?" And I was like, "No, I actually didn't." I pulls up the clip and he shows me, and I'm like, "That is one of the most Travis Kelce plays I have ever seen in my life." I mean, Travis Kelce is notorious for the little flip back, but what a heads-up play by Amari Cooper to recognize that. I mean, I probably would have just gone down, go for the safe play, but it made for an awesome play.
Mm-hmm. And then our final play of the week is kind of there was a lot of these this week, but I thought this was one of the more memorable ones. Kirk Cousins and the Falcons have been struggling as of late, and Kirk Cousins especially in the last month. I mean, we'll get to it, but 0 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. He had 4 interceptions alone in this game, and this was definitely his most costly. Debbie, if you want to go ahead and roll the clip. Falcons are up here by 1. Late in the third quarter, and Kirk Cousins makes a terrible throw. Ball goes about in slow motion, and it's taken all the way back for a 60-yard pick six to give the Chargers the lead, and then never looked back, and the Chargers went ahead and won this game.
Yeah, like you said, that ball was in the air for hours. Like, that was the most backyard football, can't really spiral the ball still throw I've ever seen. That was awful.
Yeah, and we'll get to more Falcons and Kirk Cousins and Chargers here when we get to the recap of that game. So now we're going to go and recap that Bears-Lions game that you were talking about. I did hear you. No, you started off with the Giants game, didn't you?
I did. I might have missed the oh, yeah. It was highlighted for some reason. I think so in my eyes.
You know, dude gets pneumonia for...
That's on me.
Dude gets pneumonia for 3 weeks and forgets how to run a podcast. Really sad.
I know.
Really sad. We're going to start off with the Bears and Lions game that happened on Thanksgiving Day. A game that a lot of people were thinking, this is going to be a massacre. It's going to be a blowout. It's going to be boring to watch. And the first half kind of seemed that way. But then the second half, the Bears just were chipping away and chipping away and chipping away. And they got to a point where they were down by only 3 points with a little over a minute to go, and they were driving. Bears, I'm sure if you're a football fan, you saw the outcome. But Caleb Williams and the Bears, they're in field goal range, so obviously a field goal ties the game and sends it to overtime. But they go ahead. Caleb Williams takes a sack to put him at about the 40-yard line, which so you can still kick a field goal from that range, but they still have 30 seconds. So they still have time to run another play, maybe run a couple plays, but they also have a timeout. So worst case scenario, you can go ahead and call your timeout, figure out what to do. But Caleb Williams and the Bears go ahead, and they go to the line, take their time, change the play at the line, don't call a timeout, waste the entire remaining 30 seconds of the game, have one more just Hail Mary shot as time expires, and the Bears will lose 23-20 in a game that they very well could have won. And that obviously resulted in the firing of Matt Eberflus. Very, very much deservingly so. I think he should have been fired weeks ago, but we'll see if it has any difference on the Bears and how they play in the coming weeks because, definitely a game that the Bears could have won against a very good team. Caleb Williams didn't have a bad game. He actually had a pretty good game, 256 yards and 3 touchdowns. So if they can get a good head coach in there, maybe in the coming seasons we can really see Caleb Williams and the Bears start to be the team that we hope that we would see this year.
Yeah, I think I think I disagree with you a little bit on the Matt Eberflus firing. Like, I agree that he is a bad coach and he probably shouldn't have been in a head coaching position anyways. But I mean, the Bears, this is the first time that they've fired a head coach before the season ended since like 1936 or something stupid like that. Like, it's been a really long time. But the Bears are in this continual cycle where they get a new quarterback that has a new head coach along with them. The team doesn't perform as well as the higher-ups desired. Then they fire the head coach, and then they expect their quarterback to play well under a brand new system yet again. And then that quarterback doesn't play well, and so they're like, well, it must be the quarterback's fault. So they bring in a new quarterback, but now they have this new head coach, and then the head coach gets fired. So there's a continuous cycle of like no stability whatsoever for young quarterbacks. So, like, I understand that Matt Eberflus is a bad head coach, and I understand that he made a really, really low football IQ decision to not call that timeout, and that lost you the game, and so you deserve to be fired. You deserve to have your job lost for that. But at some point, the Bears need to stop doing the Carolina Panthers strategy where the ownership, the management, the whatever isn't happy with the coaching, and they need to just double down and keep a coach for more than one season. You a little thirsty there, Caden?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're just gonna all watch you chug that water.
That's fine. I was so thirsty. Debbie had to go grab me water. Thanks, Debbie.
You're welcome.
The perks of doing it in Debbie's basement. All right. But yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying absolutely, because that's what happened with Mitch Trubisky and Justin Fields, and now it's seeming to happen with Caleb Williams. So we'll see if the cycle is going to break, because Bears fans would hate for this to happen again, and then we just repeat the cycle for whoever is the next QB that goes there. So we'll see what happens in the next weeks and years for the Bears. So, all right,
And
we're
before
going
we
to
move
go
on to the next
oh,
game. Did you see? I just want to point this out because it's kind of funny. But did you see the then the last part of the statistic where it's like, you have to end the cycle of new quarterback, head coach firing, new quarterback, new head coach firing. That then Mr. Trubisky, Justin Fields, like they both went to the Steelers. So now the thought is, does Caleb Williams go to the Steelers in the next couple of years? Which would be hilarious if it happened.
I didn't realize that, but yeah, that's kind of weird and crazy coincidence. Cool. All right, we're going to jump to the Cowboys and Giants game, another Thanksgiving tradition. The Cowboys always play at 4 o'clock on Thanksgiving, and they go ahead in the battle of Drew Lock versus Cooper Rush, and they won this one 27-20. A game that we kind of expected the Cowboys to win. As bad as the Cowboys have been this season, the Giants have been that much worse. And the Cowboys, they looked a little bit more like the Cowboys that we kind of expected to see this season. Their defense played a lot better. They had a really nice pick six. Cooper Rush played well. I know he wasn't, we didn't expect him to be playing at all this season, but he played well in this game. Rico Dowdle ran the ball very well for over 100 yards for the first time Dallas has had a 100-yard rusher in a long time. And the Giants, on the other hand, did a lot of nothing. Tyrone Tracy only had 32 yards, and Malik Neighbors only had 69. So when your two best players are only doing that, you can't expect to win. Even if they're doing better than that, you're the New York Giants, and you're probably not going to go ahead and win anyway.
Yeah, I mean, this was always going to be a bad game as soon as we heard that Tommy DeVito hurt his forearm and would not be playing in this game. I had very low expectations, but the Giants did a lot better than I anticipated them to do. I expected them to score maybe a field goal, but they put up 20 points, so I'm proud of them for what they did. The stat line for Drew Lock was very, very similar to a Daniel Jones stat line that you would have seen 2-3 weeks ago. So congratulations to the Cowboys for winning. The end of the season, I'll say this a lot in this episode because the end of the season has kind of snuck up on me. And so the whole time I've just been kind of like waiting for some of these teams like the Cowboys, and we'll get to them, the Bengals, to kind of like turn things on and be like, okay, here they are. Here's the team we were waiting for, and then make the playoff push towards the end. And the end of the season snuck up on me, at least, where it's like the Cowboys are kind of like, they're out of it now. Like, I guess they could win out. They could stand a chance to maybe get a last spot if everyone else does really poorly. But it's, I don't know. It's weird to see the Cowboys doing as poorly as they are, even if now they are turning it up in the last part of the season here with their defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, two teams that, I mean, not the Giants, but the Cowboys especially, is supposed to have expectations to compete maybe for a Super Bowl, but like you said, their season kind of is seeming over at this point. All right, and then the third and final game on Thanksgiving was the Dolphins going to Lambeau Field in the cold to play the Packers, and we all know how Tua and the Dolphins perform in the cold, or not even the cold, maybe in the below 50 degrees, but they very much struggle in the chillier conditions, and they lose this one 30-17. Tua actually had a really good game, especially for playing in the cold. Tua threw for 365 yards with 2 touchdowns. But, I mean, the Packers took a massive lead early in this game, and then the Dolphins did everything they could to come back and make this a game towards the end. But the Packers' lead in the beginning was just so big and so insurmountable that the Dolphins weren't going to come back no matter how much points they scored. So the Packers ended up winning this one pretty handily, 30-17, like I said. But, I mean, the score doesn't look too close, but it was a bigger blowout than what the score even shows, and the score shows a pretty big blowout itself.
Yeah. I was thoroughly impressed with how Tua was able to handle the cold. He had a decent game. I was impressed that Tyreek Hill actually had a decent fantasy game for the first time in like 15 weeks. So that was nice to see again. But this is a common theme that we'll see a couple more times as we talk about these games. The teams that are used to the warmer weather just cannot handle the cold when it comes down to it. So really shows the advantage that open fields have when you get up north.
Mm-hmm. And last week, our special guest Quentin talked about Jonnu Smith and the tight end for the Dolphins, and talked about how maybe he's been switching jerseys with Tyreek Hill every single week because he was putting up crazy stats. And that just continued this week with 10 receptions for 113 yards from Jonnu Smith. So somebody who, I mean, people knew who Jonnu Smith was. He wasn't like an absolute bum coming into the season, but has definitely turned it on these last 4 or 5 weeks. And people are realizing, like, all right, this is a really good tight end, and he's been like the leading pass catcher as of late for Miami, and a big part of that offense. So, like you said, Tyreek Hill got back in the end zone once again. But, I mean, the Dolphins have a lot of offense, but playing in the cold just isn't really their forte, and they lose this one and drop to 5-7. So they have a really uphill climb to try to make the playoffs if that's what they're going to try to do. All right, and then the NFL did another Black Friday game this year. Last year, nobody watched that game, so they said, let's do it again. And it was the Raiders going ahead and playing the Chiefs. The Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce said it best. He said, well, it's the best team in football versus the worst team in football, so we're going to go out there and try to create chaos. And he actually almost did create chaos as they lose this one 19-17, but they very, very well should have won this game. The Raiders were losing pretty early, and they drove down the field late. Aiden O'Connell was leading them down the field. All they had to do was kick a field goal, and they win the game. There was about 15 seconds to go, and the Raiders were at about the 25, 30-yard line. Very well field goal range. Granted, the Raiders had already missed 3 field goals in this game, so I mean, that right there, that's the difference. If you make one of those field goals, you already have the game won, but you missed 3 of them. But nonetheless, you still have a very well chance to go ahead and kick a game-winning field goal here. But with 15 seconds to go, very controversial call. The ball is snapped, but one ref seems to blow it dead at the top of the screen and run in, waving his hands and blowing the whistle. Aiden O'Connell isn't looking at the ball. He drops it, picked up by Kansas City. The refs meet and decide that it is a legal formation or a legal shift, whatever the call was. And the Chiefs go ahead, get the ball, and obviously just kneel it down and win the game. I am not one to just sit here and be like, oh, the Chiefs, they're getting bailed by the refs every single week, blah, blah, blah. I'm crying about that. But this situation looks very, very, very bad for the NFL because you can very clearly see a ref at the top of the screen running in, waving his arms, calling the play off, and you see the entire left side of the field stop playing. The Chiefs defenders, the Raiders receivers, half of the O-line, they stopped moving. They stood up because there was a false start. The play is blown dead. But they let the play stand, and the Raiders go ahead and fumble. Kansas City picks it up. I think that's a very bad look for the NFL, but the Chiefs nonetheless move to 11-1.
Yeah, I agree that it looks bad, but at the end of the day, I don't think that it's necessarily a bad call. I think they should have just picked up the flags is what they should have done. Because I personally, watching the game, I didn't see a false start anywhere. I didn't even see an illegal shift, so I don't really know what they called. I think they should have just picked up the flags and said it was a weird play. We all got confused, but after discussion, the play stands as it was. So, all right, yeah, here it is. Debbie pulled it up for us.
I mean, but I still think that if they blow the play dead, whether it be the right call or wrong call, if you blow it dead, you blow it dead. And you can't pick that up because half the team stops moving. And that is so, if the Raiders go ahead and throw a touchdown on that play, you're not going to say, it's this. They changed the call. Half the defense stopped moving.
That did happen with the Raiders and Bengals a couple years ago. Do you remember that?
I do. And that was a bad look for the NFL at that moment, too.
It was a bad look then. I mean, I didn't I'm sure you didn't either. I didn't hear the whistle at the top of the play. Like I didn't even know that the referee was coming in waving his hands until like days later when I saw it circulating on Instagram. They're like, "Oh, look, the referees blew it dead," but I didn't even see that in real time. I didn't hear the whistle. I didn't anything like that. So
I knew when I brought this up you were going to be against that because I remember having a conversation about something like this not too long ago. And you had like a similar stance. I think it was a very bad look for the NFL. I think it absolutely should have just been a 5-yard penalty, and the Raiders should have had the ball because I think it's ridiculous that you can blow a play dead like that. Have the ref run in, blowing his whistle and waving his arms to shut the play down, and then you reverse that. So, but I mean, we'll see. Obviously, the refs didn't care in the NFL. Let it stand. So, we'll jump into another very, very controversial moment in another game. The Texans playing the Jaguars, and they go ahead. What am I talking about? Oh, they go ahead and they win this one. I was looking at something here on the dock, Debbie. They go ahead and they win this one 23-20. But the Texans, barely survive against the Jags, a team that they should dominate, a team, and this has been the trend with the Texans all year long. They're supposed to be so dominant. They were supposed to come in, and CJ Stroud was supposed to have a sophomore season where he's competing to win the MVP, where they're competing to be a number 1 seed in the AFC and contend for a Super Bowl. And the Texans are winning some games by the skin of their teeth against teams like Jacksonville, losing to teams like Tennessee, barely beating like teams that they should dominate. And that has been the story all season. And for a long time, it was, oh, well, CJ Stroud doesn't have Nico Collins. Oh, well, Stephon Diggs is out. Well, Nico Collins has been back now for 3 or 4 weeks. And you just played the Jacksonville Jaguars and you barely won this game. But, oh, Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback, so that's okay. Well, first of all, no, he's not. And second of all, Azeez Al-Shaair of the Texans committed a felony on the field and absolutely murdered Trevor Lawrence. Thank you, Debbie, for pulling this up. Trevor Lawrence runs, slides, and Al-Shaair hits him as he's sliding, hits him late, hits him with the shoulder and extends the elbow at the head. Obviously knocks out Trevor Lawrence, gives him a concussion. Trevor Lawrence is now, as of about 30 minutes ago, been ruled out for the season now. Al-Shaair has been ejected, or was ejected, and now has been suspended. It resulted in a massive brawl on the sidelines. Really bad look again for the NFL and for the Texans. But for the Texans' sake, they barely won this game, and they're playing against Mac Jones. I don't have words for that. They should be dominating these teams if they have the aspirations that they are. If CJ Stroud is as good as everyone praises him to be, why are you barely winning these games? Everyone gave Bryce Young such crap last season, and now CJ Stroud has much, much better weapons, much, much better team around him, and he's struggling to win any of these games, and they're barely beating the Jaguars, who have their backup QB because you cheap shotted their QB and he's out of the game. And now the Texans head coach DeMeco Ryans came out and I forget what the whole thing was, but he was mad at the Jaguars for fighting, for getting mad at Al-Shaair, and I'm like, what? So you're telling me that if someone would cheap shot CJ Stroud and your teammates would just stand there and look at him and be like, yeah, you would not get mad at your team? Like, sorry, I know this is a long rant, but I'm really becoming less and less of a fan of the Texans as we speak, as the weeks go on, and as people praise CJ Stroud. Put his stats up with any other QB right now in the NFL, and he is a bottom 10 QB in these last month and a half of this season.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything that you're saying, obviously.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I agree
I was
with
really
everything you're
wondering
saying
what
on
you're
this
going to
one.
say.
No, I agree with everything you're saying here.
Check this out.
Yeah, let's see. Head coach DeMeco Ryans, quote, "We stand behind Azeez Al-Shaair." Ryans emphasized that linebacker plays the game the right way and is being mischaracterized. Calls him a great human being. Was critical of Jaguars, quote, overreaction to hit on Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, I mean, I will say this. I don't think the hit was necessarily as bad as people are making it out to be. It was a late hit. It should have been a penalty. obviously. Do I think that he should have been suspended? Not really. Ejected? Okay, maybe. Suspended? I don't really think so. People have late hits all the time. To me, this looked like every other late hit that you see on this stuff. You see the quarterbacks going down. Just pull up. I understand what D'Amico Ryans is saying a little bit, but on the other hand, like it does look worse because now Trevor Lawrence is out for the year. He left the game with a concussion. He has to have shoulder surgery now. Like, it is a really bad look. So I understand what everyone on both sides is saying here. And obviously that's a huge hit for the Jaguars. But like you said, the Texans need to figure things out like yesterday, because barely winning against Mac Jones is not going to cut it if you have playoff aspirations.
Yeah. All right. We don't need to spend too much time on this next game. We got the Commanders, who have been struggling as of late, losers of, I believe, their last 3, playing against the Titans, who are coming off, a win against the dominant Texans, who we just talked about. And the Commanders go ahead and dominate in this one, 42-19. It was more of a blowout than what the score even shows. Jaden Daniels looked a lot better, looked back to form in this game. He was running it well. He was throwing it well. The Commanders as a team were running it well. Brian Robinson had an amazing day on the ground. Terry McLaurin had a great day. I know me and you were very hype about that. Going back to the fantasy game, Terry McLaurin had his first touchdown of the game, and I texted you, and I was like, I don't even remember what I said. I thought it was like turn up or something like that, because we were hyped. Yeah. And then you said, hey, I don't want to celebrate too early or anything. And then he had a second one, and I was like, oh my goodness. And I was like, Terry's going crazy. And ultimately, you got the win, which, yeah, it was just great. But Terry had a great game. Commanders are rolling, and hopefully, I hope that they can make it to the playoffs. I think they're a really fun team to watch and a fun story. So, this is what you're supposed to do to the Titans, and they went out and handled their business. And they have a bye this week, get all the way healthy, and try to make that push to remain in the playoffs as we get hit the end of the season.
Yeah. Correct me. No, I am wrong. They're not at the top of their division. The Eagles are, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Eagles are like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, obviously, the Commanders need to make a little bit of a push. For sure they can grab a wild card spot if they are able to win some of these last couple games. But that... Yeah, right here. I can't see that because my eyes are bad. But it looks like they have maybe 8 wins... the Commanders do. So they're able to hopefully, like, the division is still up for grabs for sure. But obviously, as long as they win at least the next couple weeks, they should be able to grab a wild card spot. And like you said, be very happy to see that. It's kind of like a Lions sort of situation last year, where it's like everyone was rooting for them to do very, very well because they'd been so bad for so long. And now here we are, the Commanders on the cusp of the playoffs, and I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for Jaden Daniels, so I'm excited to see what they have.
Absolutely. All right, in this game, really big for the Colts, who go ahead and beat the Patriots 24-25 and remain in the AFC wild card hunt. They go ahead, and this was a pretty back and forth game for a lot of the game, and the Colts got the ball late, down by 7, and very end of the game, I think there was about 13 seconds to go. I almost just called him Aaron Richardson. Anthony Richardson makes a pass to, I believe, Alec Pierce in the end zone to score a late touchdown, and obviously an extra point will tie the game and send it to OT. But Shane Steichen decides, no, our quarterback sucks. If we go to overtime, we're probably not going to win. So let's go for 2 right now. And they do. And instead of making Richardson throw the ball, because we all know he can't, he ran right up the middle with Richardson, and that is Richardson's strong suit. And it worked out. And they got the 2-point conversion and win this game 25-24. So that's a big win for the Colts. It was a really good game. Drake May played pretty well for the Patriots.
Mhm.
They ran the ball pretty well. It was a good game overall. Jonathan Taylor finally got going a little bit. He had 96 yards, but it was on 25 carries, so you want that yardage to be a little bit higher with that many carries. But Drake May, I know he's not getting wins, but he's definitely progressing and doing what you want to see out of a rookie QB on a team where your number one weapon is Kayshon Boutte. He will make an appearance in every single episode.
Yeah, obviously, like you said, congratulations to the Colts on the win. They really, really needed that, and they need to continue that trend for the next 4 weeks. But like you said as well, Drake May is performing very, very well. I think that we didn't do him quite as much justice as we should have at the beginning of the year when they benched Jacoby Brissett for him. We said, oh, he's going to die. He's really not all that great. Why are they doing this to him? He needs to develop more. But he has shocked me week after week, and this week's just another one. He had a great week. So hopefully they can get him some weapons. They can build an offensive line that can protect him. And, yeah, I'm very impressed with his development so far.
Absolutely. All right. The next game here on our list is that game that we saw on one of the top plays of the week. The Chargers going to Atlanta and win this one 17-13 in kind of a lower scoring defensive battle. But when I say defensive battle, it was more the Chargers defense just doing whatever they wanted with Kirk Cousins' passes. Kirk Cousins threw for 245 yards in this game, but like I had mentioned earlier, threw 4 interceptions in this game. All of his balls seem to be going in. Debbie, you are so immature back there. I cannot believe you. Seemed, because I heard you. Right. Seemed to be
You guys need
Seemed
to
to
get
be-
it together.
dude. Debbie, you are a 19-year-old dude running a podcast, and you're ridiculous. Seem to be thrown in slow motion. Like I said, 4 interceptions, and the Falcons are absolutely sputtering. A division that once seemed a lock. I believe they were 6-2, 6-3, maybe. They had their foot on the pedal. They were in the driver's seat to win that division. Their only competition was the Buccaneers, who then go ahead and lose Chris Godwin for the season and Mike Evans for the next 3 or 4 weeks. And here we are. And after a pretty bad stretch of games for the Falcons and some wins for the Bucs now have lead in the division once again. So the Falcons have choked away the division so far. They're really going to have to try to fight these next couple of weeks to get it back. But the way Kirk Cousins is playing, I don't think that that's going to happen. If he keeps playing like this, we might really just have to see Michael Penix maybe this season, and maybe we just see one season of Kirk Cousins, and next season it's Michael Penix time, which is crazy when you pay Kirk Cousins all that money, but he's really underperforming. So maybe Achilles injuries really, really affect QBs.
Yeah. 2 things about this. First off, the Chargers are sneakily a very, very good team. I really didn't expect it. Every week it goes by where it's like, oh, picking games, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I guess I'll pick the Chargers because I guess they've been doing kind of well. Look at the stats, whatever. Recap the games. Oh, the Chargers won, yay. And then here they are. What's their record right now, Caden? Do you know have they won 8 games?
8-4.
8-4. And I was not expecting that. I expected them to be a little bit lower, a little closer to 500. So, again, maybe it's just because I was sick for 3 weeks. But the end of the season's really snuck up on me. And so, seeing them sit at 8-4, I'm pleasantly surprised. Seeing what Harbaugh's been able to do with Justin Herbert, I'm very pleased with that. Even if I'm not as much of a Herbert Glazer as you are. What he's been able to do with the Chargers defense is really, really impressive. The Chargers have one of the best defenses in the NFL right now. And then going over to the Falcons side, like you were saying, I don't know what happened in the NFC South, because I remember a time at the beginning of the year where I was like, wow, the NFC South is actually going to be a fun, competitive division minus the Panthers. I mean, we had the Saints at the beginning of the year that came out absolutely swinging. They were scoring 50 points a game. The Buccaneers obviously were hot. The Falcons, they were hot. I was like, this could be fun. And now here we are, yet another year of a terminally bad NFC South where we could, it's not particularly likely, but we could have a division winner that has a sub 500 record yet again. So I don't know what's happening in the NFC South, but I was not here for it.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes for that, for the division and for the Falcons especially. But all right, the next game that we got to talk about here is the Seahawks and the Jets. We actually had a play from this game as well. The Seahawks go to New Jersey and win this one 26-21. And for 3/4 of this game, the Jets were winning. The Jets were owning definitely the beginning of this game, but most of this game, Seahawks took the lead late on a Zach Charbonnet touchdown, and they win this one 26-21. Aaron Rodgers didn't have a bad game. However, his pick six that we saw earlier, it came off of the heels of a wide open Garrett Wilson in the end zone. That would have been, one of the easier touchdowns that Garrett Wilson's had, and that would put it at the moment would have put it at 28-7. And obviously the Jets didn't score any more points after that, and it ended up being 26-21. So that missed ball by Rodgers really came back to hurt them. But ultimately, Rodgers only threw for 185 yards and 2 touchdowns and a pick. Breece Hall only 60 yards in this game. Devontae Adams did pretty well with 66 yards and a touchdown on 5 catches. At least he did pretty well for fantasy on my team. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers and the Jets are done. Aaron Rodgers is probably going to leave the Jets next season. Hopefully, would just retire from the NFL because he is so washed. I know Debbie likes to every single week send a reel to our group chat. Like it's the first time we've seen it. And it says like, hey, my mom just asked me if I did the dishes and I just yelled Aaron Rodgers and then she smiled and knew they were washed. Debbie, I'd just like to let you know we have seen that reel, that meme. You've sent it 8 weeks in a row now, but
it doesn't get old. It never gets old.
but
It's funny every time.
it is quite funny every time. But Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, they're done. You did?
Yeah.
No, that's really funny. And yeah, the Seahawks, they remain first place in the NFC West at 7-5, a team that we didn't really expect to be too good this season, but I mean, they aren't really that good. They're only 7-5, but they're leading that division, and it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of their season goes. The Jets season is ultimately over.
Yeah, and it's quite sad to see.
No, not really.
At least, okay. Well, for me, I think that it's sad because I like Aaron Rodgers. I have him on my dynasty team. So I was hoping that he would do better than 2 seasons, really 1 since he got hurt the first year. But it's very weird to hear the conversations already being had about, what will Aaron Rodgers do in his future? Is he going to stay with the Jets? What's Devontae Adams going to do with his future? Is he going to stay with the Jets? If Aaron Rodgers goes, Devontae Adams probably wants out as well. So I don't know. It's a weird situation over there, but the Jets are done. I mean, they've been done for 5 weeks now, but there was just some semblance of hope that they could hang on to, that maybe they could pull something out, but it's over now.
Yeah, it is officially over. And Debbie wants us to go ahead and react to this Netflix trailer for a video of Aaron Rodgers' recovery. Is this a real Netflix thing, Debbie?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's real.
I've never heard of this before. So, I mean, it's going to be my first time seeing this and my reaction. What about you?
Same. I've never seen whatever this
Okay.
is.
Oh, that's strange.
It's wild.
Is there sound?
Hmm.
Are they going to show his record at the end of the season? And it's like 3-14.
Harold will watch this.
I will not be watching.
I will be watching.
You will.
I will be watching.
I will not. I am not an Aaron Rodgers fan. I mean, I'll
I
watch
am.
actually if they're gonna show his 3-14 season, all 14 of his losses. I'll watch.
What I want to know is how early on in the process did they decide they were going to film this? Because we see there him sitting in the wheelchairs in doctor's offices before surgeries, and so it was like the minute that he tore his Achilles, did he say to his PR team, "Someone needs to get a camera on me right now. This is going to be a great documentary in a year."
Fake. Why did it just say fake? Aaron Rodgers is faking everything. He just sucks.
He's faking being bad for attention.
He's a weird dude.
What a great guy.
Do you hear Debbie?
I hear Debbie. No, everyone can hear
Debbie is going to binge watch this in a day.
Enigma. Ooh.
Interesting.
Sends a shiver down my spine.
That was the funniest thing I've watched in a long time.
Other than the one reel that you sent to the group chat 8 weeks in a row.
Facts.
All right, we can go ahead and jump to the next game. This one was exciting, and this one was a shootout. Steelers go ahead and beat the Bengals 44-38. I know you're shaking your head. You're not happy about it, but the Bengals defense is something that literally is historically bad. The Steelers don't have a good offense. There's just nothing about, like, there's no way around it. But they go ahead and put up 44 points against the Bengals. The Steelers have a good defense, and the Bengals put up 38. That's what we've seen from the Bengals all season. They're a phenomenal offense, but their defense is like historically bad, allowing Pittsburgh Steelers to go ahead and get 44 points. And the Bengals now drop. I think that their season is officially over. I mean, they're sitting at 4-8 right now. Maybe if every single thing went their way and they went on a winning streak, they could try to squeak into that 7th spot, but I really don't think it's going to happen, especially with their defense giving up 100,000 points and yards a game, which is really sad because we've been seeing, if they had a winning record right now, I think Joe Burrow would be far and away the MVP right now. He's leading the league in almost every QB stat, but their defense is just gross. And giving up 44 points to the Steelers in 2024 is disgusting. And the Steelers, on the other hand, moved to 9-3, and they extend their lead in the division over the Ravens, who lost this week. That we'll get to that game, but the Steelers, they're looking pretty nice right now.
Yeah, and the reason I was shaking my head is not necessarily because I was disappointed with the result. Obviously, I am. I don't like seeing the Steelers win. But, I was shaking my head because, like Debbie threw on here, the Bengals have something like 98, I think it's 98 points in the last 4 games, and they've lost them all. The Bengals defense is something to be studied, man. Like, honestly, they would be better suited to put 11 revolving doors out on the field as their defense, because they just let everything through. Joe Burrow is doing literally everything he can to win these games. Scoring 38 points should be enough to win you a game. Scoring 98 points among 4 games should be enough to win you at least 1, if not all 4. So their defense is awful, and I apologize to everyone who we lied to when week after week after week at the beginning of the year we were saying, don't worry, guys, calm down. The Bengals, they're going to turn it on. It's going to be okay. They're going to make the playoff push as soon as they get to midseason. It happens every year. Well, it didn't happen this year. They're sitting at, 4-8, and they need a miracle to make anything happen. But even if you get to the playoffs, you play anyone from the AFC, you can't win with that defense. They need to make major changes this offseason.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Because they have the team, they have the offensive firepower to go ahead and compete and win a Super Bowl, but they got to get that defense fixed. So, all right.
Well, they have to figure out how to pay Jamar, too.
Yeah, because you can't keep him and T. So, T. Higgins is probably gone. So, got to figure out how to. I mean, I think they'll be fine with Jamar. I think that they'll be able to get him, but definitely not both.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, and then we're going to go to Minnesota and the Vikings taking care of the Cardinals 23-22. The Vikings go ahead. They're another team. I talked about them a couple weeks ago when you were, hospitalized. They moved to 10-2, very, very quietly 10-2. That's absurd to me because they're a team almost like what we saw from them a couple years back when they went something crazy like 11-0 and one score games. That's kind of what we're seeing out of them this year. Every game they're in is a one-score game, and they're 10-2, and they're surviving by the skin of their teeth. They took the lead here with 1:13 to go in the game, and the Cardinals had a chance to go down. All they needed was a field goal, and Kyler Murray threw a pick. He threw for 260 yards and a touchdown in this game with, I believe, 2 interceptions in this game. But Justin Jefferson had 99 yards. He's had a very, very quiet season for Justin Jefferson standards, and they're still 10-2. Their defense has played well. Aaron Jones has ran the ball pretty well. Sam Darnold has done well. I mean, this is just a solid team. No one's like playing out of their minds, but they're very, very quietly 10-2. And the Cardinals, on the other hand, they were leading this division just 2 weeks ago, losing to the Seahawks, giving that division lead up, and now losing this week while the Seahawks win. The Seahawks extend their lead. So the Cardinals got to get things going pretty quickly here if they want to go ahead and try to win the division over the Seahawks.
Yeah. Like you said, little stat here from Debbie before I say what I was about to. Vikings, Lions, and Packers have a combined record of 30-6. 3 of those 6 losses come from in-division play. Very impressive from the NFC North. Obviously, we talked about them a couple weeks ago. Can we see? Do we say 3 or 4 NFC North teams in the playoffs? And obviously, the answer is no, because the Bears aren't going to do anything. But very well done from all those teams up there. But like you were saying, a very quiet season from the Vikings. Obviously, they started off very loud, and we were all paying attention because they were undefeated for so long, and then obviously lost to the Lions for the first one. But since that point, they've just been quietly winning games, a very solid team. It's a team that you would expect to see at more of like an 8-4 record, where it's like, okay, that's a solid team, they perform well. The 10-2 makes it seem like they're more of an elite team. So I'd be curious to look at what their strength of schedule was at the beginning of the year and see how difficult it was for them to be sitting at this record.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then I believe the first of the 4 o'clock games was the Rams and the Saints, and the Rams go ahead and give the Saints their first loss under interim coach Riz. I don't really know his name. I just know his last name's like Rizzy or something. This has been such a weird episode of the podcast, Debbie. From the start to you making that immature laugh and joke to literally drinking water on the podcast. You literally were laughing back there. We're not getting back into this. To now talking about Riz on the podcast. We have gone.
How the mighty have fallen.
We have literally, Austin, we don't need you back. It was going so
apparently
swell for those 3 weeks, and now it's just become a crapshoot. So, the Rams go ahead and win this one 21-14. Taysom Hill tore his ACL in this game, which is a really sad. I mean, as much as I hate the Saints, Taysom Hill is really fun to watch. And Taysom Hill, all right, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Taysom Hill's on my fantasy team, and that's the only reason I was sad that he tore his ACL. He's really good, and he's out for the season now. Alvin Kamara had a pretty good game with 112 yards. Derek Carr, only 184 yards. Matthew Stafford at halftime, I believe, had 23 passing yards in the entire game, and they went ahead and won the game. So really a boring game ultimately. I mean, I know it was close, but there wasn't too much for me to talk about. I really don't have much takeaways from this game.
I do not either, so let's move on.
No. Okay, that was easy enough. This next game, I have plenty of takeaways. Buccaneers traveling to Carolina to take on the Panthers, and they win this one 26-23. Did you see, Debbie, shut up. Did you see the end of this game, Austin?
I heard about it.
I crashed out more than I think I ever have in my life after this game. Debbie?
More than the time you threw your phone through the wall?
Oh, whoa. The podcast listeners do not need to know that.
That's right.
So Bryce Young played the greatest game of his career. Bryce Young threw for 298 yards, and a touchdown, ran a touchdown in himself, but he should have thrown a third touchdown. He threw a touchdown right before halftime to Adam Thielen. They called it incomplete, and they replayed it, and it was the announcer said that's a catch. Everyone said that's a catch. The red zone guy said that's a catch, and the refs came on and said, no, that's not. And literally the NFL came out and said, like there's an angle an angle came out this week that shows Adam Thielen with the ball in the end zone. That's a catch. And the NFL came out and said that the refs did not have that angle during when they were reviewing it, and so that's why they called it incomplete. Well, if that wouldn't have happened, we would have obviously won this game. But Bryce Young had a very good game, like I said. They're trailing in this game late. They're trailing that by 4 points with about 3 minutes to go, and they get the ball. Bryce Young has a chance to make a legacy drive. And go ahead, Debbie, if you say one more thing to me. Oh, you're pulling up the clip. My bad. That is a catch. And if it shows it on the other angle, his elbow is inbounds, okay? I don't understand. But Bryce Young goes ahead, and he leads a go-ahead drive with 30 seconds to go. Panthers take a lead on a 26-yard touchdown, I believe, to Adam Thielen, take a 3-point lead. The Bucs go down and kick a 51-yard field goal to send it to overtime. Darn it, that's okay. Bryce Young played great. Literally amazing. What more can you ask for? We missed 3 field goals in this game as well. You know, that's not on Bryce Young. And then we go ahead. Bucs get the ball first. They go down. They miss a field goal. Oh my goodness. We have a chance to win this game. They go down. Panthers get in field goal range. They're at about the 35-yard line. They just got to kick a field goal. Game is over. Chuba Hubbard, who's been phenomenal on season, fumbles the football. And this is when I crashed out, Austin. I genuinely... I was pretty angry when this happened, and they lost. The Bucs got the ball and went down and kicked a game-winning field goal, and we lost 23-26. But I don't know what you're going to say about it, but there is no denying the fact that Bryce Young has completely changed his entire narrative about his career. First, I mean, I know I'm a Panthers fan, but you cannot argue with me on that, and I will argue that till the day I die, because all last season and the first 2 weeks of this season, he was terrible. And I was sitting on this hill all last season saying, no, it's not Bryce Young's fault. And we can go back and listen. We didn't film the podcast last year, did we? No, we did not. Well, I was talking to people and saying it is not Bryce Young's fault. The first 2 weeks of this season, I kind of thought it was Bryce Young's fault. He got benched, okay? And he sat behind Andy Dalton. And then he said, I understand now. And he came out.
We're supposed to win.
He played the Chiefs and lost by 3, and then he played the Bucs and lost by 3. 2 very good teams, and the Bucs he should have beat, but Chuba Hubbard fumbled the football, and we missed 3 field goals, and the refs called a very clear catch incomplete. I don't want to hear it. And then, literally against the amazing defense of the Chiefs, threw for almost 300 yards against the Chiefs as well. Bryce Young has completely flipped. Hold on, I have a stat on my phone. Let me read it for you. Bryce Young.
I know you guys can't see it, but
Okay,
we have a little chat that you guys can't see that like we type in on for like offstage cues and stuff. And Debbie put I think 147 glaze. Austin.
I've saved a bunch of stuff.
Tell me about it.
So also let me the rapper Rod Wave.
Nope.
What? You don't? Debbie, do you?
I have the clip here, I think.
No, that is. I don't know what you're gonna pull. You don't know Rod Wave?
No.
Okay, he's a
Okay,
rapper.
you're the only one
okay,
that knows this guy.
I don't listen to him. I just know who he is because I'm cultured. But
Sure.
when Bryce Young got benched, Rod Wave posted on his Instagram and said, "Hey Bryce Young, call me." Don't know why, but he did. And ever since that moment, that also just happened to be the moment he got benched, Bryce Young has 4 game-winning or game-tying drives in his last 4 games. He has the 3rd highest PFF passing grade in the last 5 weeks. He has the highest passer rating on throws, 25-plus yards downfield in the NFL. He has the most big-time throws in the NFL over the last 2 weeks. And I think he has completely cemented himself as the franchise QB. He has changed his name. He is a good QB now, and there is nothing to say about that. And apparently he was asked today in an interview what Rod Wave said to him. And when I am done with this podcast, I'm going to listen to that because I really want to know what he said. But oh, really? I can't hear that for some reason. So I'm going to listen to it myself. But it's okay, Debbie. Here we got some stats about Bryce Young versus CJ Stroud. Okay, let's read. Just read. We were talking about CJ Stroud earlier. Hold on. Everyone gave Bryce Young so much crap. The apology for Bryce Young better be as loud as the hate was for Bryce Young last year. That is all I have to say. And since Bryce Young came back from being benched, CJ Stroud has played 6 games and Bryce has played 5. Bryce has played 1 less game than CJ. Bryce has thrown 7 touchdowns and CJ's thrown 5. That's better for Bryce, and Bryce has played 1 less game. CJ Stroud also starting to Nico Collins, Tank Dell, all those good guys. Bryce only has 3 turnovers. CJ Stroud has 7 turnovers. That's terrible. Bryce Young has an 83.5 pass rating since being benched in week 2 or being back in week 5. CJ Stroud, 79. So Bryce Young, clearly better than CJ Stroud, and we are seeing it. And Bryce Young is playing like a good QB again, and I am so excited. I know they didn't win these last 2 games, but they are playing like a great team again. The defense sucks, but that's fine. Bryce Young, I know this is a long glaze moment, Keegan, I'm sorry, but I'm excited about the Panthers again. I know they're not going to go to the playoffs this season, but Bryce Young.
Oh, really? What gave that away?
The
Just
number
fact that
1
they have
overall.
won 3 games.
The number 1 overall pick last year was not a bust. It was a good pick. He just took a little bit of time to develop. He got it now, and we're good, and we have our franchise QB.
Caden,
End of story.
Caden. I'm going to say one thing, and then I'm going to say one thing, and then we're going to move on because no one wants to hear about the Panthers anymore. Okay.
Just had to.
Last year, you know this, some of the viewers know this, I picked Bryce Young with the first overall pick in the Dynasty draft.
It was a good pick, and it's paying
last
off for you.
And I started Bryce Young until I could start him no more. And then I picked up, I had to deal with Josh Dobbs for a little bit, and then I found Baker Mayfield, and he's worked out very well for me. So I've been playing Baker Mayfield and Aaron Rodgers this season as my 2 quarterbacks, and Aaron Rodgers has not been panning out very, very well for me. I would tell you this. For the last 2 weeks, I have started Bryce Young, and he has performed very, very well for me. And I'm very, very pleased with his performance, and I hope that it continues. So I will give you this. Bryce Young has been playing very, very well for the last couple of weeks. I hope that it can continue. Okay, so
Ever
you're not
since
going to
his
get any hate
benching.
from me because I want him to do well. I'm hoping for him to do well. Okay, I'm hope that I didn't pick a bust. Okay, because that's very embarrassing for me.
He's not a bust.
Especially
He's
'cause I
not a
traded
bust.
for that
He was.
Okay.
He's the
All right,
greatest
all right.
QB in that draft,
So
and that was a great
now
pick by the
we are
Panthers, and
going
they
to
just
move
showed it.
on to the next game, which is the Eagles and Ravens. So, Caden, I would like you to please talk about the Eagles and Ravens. Thank you.
The next game on our list is the Eagles and Ravens. The Eagles won 24-19. Okay, that's about all we have to say. The next game was I'm kidding. We're gonna go back and talk more about the Panthers game. Actually,
No, we're not. We're talking about this
Debbie,
game now.
I kid. Debbie is actually getting angry. Oh my goodness. Okay, Eagles.
He's an
Eagles
angry
won this one.
podcast elf.
Eagles went ahead and won this one 24-19. The Ravens were pretty dominant early in this game. My dad actually made the comment, and I kind of tended to agree with him. He goes, this game could get ugly if it keeps being like this. And I was like, yeah. And all of a sudden, the Eagles, it's like they heard that and said, what do you guys know? And then all of a sudden, they turned it on, and they won this one 24-19. Justin Tucker missed 3 kicks in this game. Justin Tucker, Debbie, you can start sending the dishes reels about being washed about Justin Tucker, because unfortunately Justin Tucker has now, I think he's officially washed. But the Eagles, I'll say it right here on the podcast right now, they are the best team in the NFL. They are better than the Lions. I forgot. Debbie, can you go outside while I record this part? Debbie, you're a bandwagon, and you need to get out of this room while I record this part, because I'm gonna be glazing the.
Oh my.
The Lions, yes, they're 11-1 or whatever they are, and they dominate teams. They beat the Jaguars 52-6 and the Colts by 1 million and things like that. But the Eagles are doing this against good teams every single week. The Eagles are quietly, I think, won 8 in a row now or 9 in a row. Ever since their loss to the Buccaneers back in week 4, they've turned it on. And the Ravens, a team that very well could go ahead and win the Super Bowl as well, a team that looks unstoppable on offense. You held them to 19 points. You have the best running back in the NFL, a running back who's in the MVP race this season, and Saquon Barkley. Debbie, please be quiet while I record this part. No, but you got up and like almost stood up and like charged at me. It was kind of weird. I don't know. Saquon Barkley, you have one of the best running backs in the NFL. You have Jalen Hurts, who's a great quarterback. You have A.J. Brown, who's one of the better receivers in the NFL. You did it in this game without even Devontae Smith, who's arguably the best number 2 receiver in the NFL. And your defense is so good. You held the Ravens to 19. You have incredible corners. Your defensive tackles and line is crazy. You have good linebackers. Nick Sirianni has been a great coach ever since his blunders in the beginning of the season. The Eagles seemingly have no weaknesses right now, unless you want to call Jake Elliott, their kicker, their weakness. If that's your weakness is your kicker, then you got a pretty good team. And I think it's pretty fair to say that the Eagles are, I mean, yes, the Lions too, but in my opinion, I think the Eagles are the best team in the NFL right now. And I think the Eagles-Lions are on a collision course to meet in the NFC Championship game. And boy, am I excited for that game, because the Eagles look unstoppable right now, but so do the Lions. But the Ravens, on the other hand, I mean, I'm not faulting them too much for this loss, because like I said, I think the Eagles are the best team in the NFL right now.
I'm not going to disagree with you too much there. I mean, they're playing very well. They have all the right pieces. Like you said, there's no real weakness on the team. It really just comes down to, can Nick Sirianni coach well, because I think that is one of their biggest weaknesses, that sometimes Nick Sirianni coaches really well, and sometimes he tries to think 7 steps ahead of his opponent instead of just taking the easy option. So as long as he can perform well and he doesn't decide to chirp at any fans and then lose 8 straight, I think they'll be in great position for the playoffs.
Yeah. All right, and then Sunday Night Football game, the game in the snow. Holy smokes, we should probably go faster. I didn't realize what time it was. The Bills go ahead and destroy the 49ers, and the 49ers season almost seems like that way. The Bills won 35-10 in the snow. The 49ers remain 4th place in that division. They drop another one. They're struggling. They're sputtering. They have a really uphill climb to try to make the postseason. Me and my dad talked about it 2 weeks ago, and we both said the 49ers we do not think are going to make the playoffs. And that's back when they were 5-5, and now they're sitting at 5-7. And oh yeah, Christian McCaffrey, he's out for the season once again. He got hurt in this game. Non-contact injury, slid down, and then he's like, nope, I'm done. And he left the game, and he's out for the season. So 49ers season looks very, very bleak, probably over. Bills, on the other hand, doing Bills things and looking primed to be the 1 or 2 seed in the AFC this season. They actually already clinched their division, which is insane.
Yeah. So, yeah, like you said, they clinched the division. 49ers are all but done. I mean, they need an absolute miracle, and it's not going to happen because Christian McCaffrey, he's done. Yeah, Josh Allen do Snow Angels. Jordan Mason, he's on IR for the time being, so that's not fantastic. Obviously, like, you have a good system for running backs and everything, but your players just keep getting hurt over and over and over again. Christian McCaffrey was my MVP pick at the beginning of the year, so, you know, if he's not going to win it, I guess this is the best way for me to go about him not winning it. You know, it's not because he didn't play well, guys. It's because he got injured, so he had to put an asterisk next to that one. So, unfortunate for him, unfortunate for the team. I'm very sad for them, and obviously the Bills decimate the 49ers, both the combination of the players and then the snow. That's obviously a big one, is the cold. And I didn't get to see this game because I was driving through that snow. I was driving from New York back home, and let me tell you, driving along the lake when it is projected to snow is absolutely miserable. Average speed for us on the way home was 25 miles an hour on the expressway. So it was a great time. It took us 12 hours to make a 7.5-hour drive. So It's a great time.
That is crazy. Well, we're glad that you made it home. I'm glad that you're back on the podcast. All right, we have one more game to talk about, and that's your team. So you have to very quickly talk about your team. You can't spend the whole episode.
Oh, I can't spend the whole time. I can't talk about how Jameis Winston is the greatest quarterback to ever exist in the NFL, and he is the greatest thing to happen to the Browns. That is kind of true, though. Jameis Winston threw for more yards in a single game than any Browns quarterback has ever. So he owns that record now. Congratulations, Jameis Winston, for being, well, I was going to get weird with it again, but we'll say him. And, you know, we had the full Jameis Winston experience. He threw 1 million touchdowns. He threw 1 million yards. He threw 1 million interceptions. Overall, it was a fun game. It was frustrating to watch us lose, but, you know, it's fine. We're vying for a draft pick now. I don't even care anymore. Get me in more fun games like this. I don't care. I don't know. Broncos, congratulations. You have a great defense, but we kind of decimated it. It was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to watching the Browns play lots of more games and lose them all so we can get a great draft pick.
Yeah. All right, we're going to go ahead and we're going to speed pick our Week 14 games. But before we do that, we're going to tell you about our friends at K&A Construction, and we're not going to do the same ad read as we normally do. Instead, I'm going to talk to you about the experience, okay? I worked for K&A Construction this week on Monday and Tuesday, and let me tell you, K&A Construction, they work hard. You know how cold it is here in Ohio? It is very cold. I don't know how cold it is, but it is very cold, and I was freezing. And
It's actually snowing right now.
is it really snowing right now?
Yeah.
That means when I drive home, it's going to be snowy? Darn it.
Feels like 21 degrees.
Darn it. It was very, very cold on Monday and Tuesday. And let me just tell you that K&A Construction, they didn't care. I cared, but they said, no, hurry up and get out here and help build this deck. And so they were out there, some of them, no gloves. Some of them took their hoodie off or their coat off halfway through the day. I had a lot of hoodies and coats on because I was cold, but they didn't care, and they were out there working hard, making sure that the deck was perfect for their customer. And that's what they would do if you want a deck. So if you want a good quality deck, you can call K&A Construction today at 330-575-2465 for a free estimate. Again, that's 330-575-2465. And you can visit kfdecks.com, which is linked in the description below. K&A Construction, let us build your dream backyard. And that can be in the heat and that can be in the snow because they don't care because they're beasts. So, all right, we're going to go ahead now and speed run these week 14 games because somebody spent a long time talking about their team, I guess. So we're going to actually wait real quick. I want to look. I'm beating you by 13. Okay, I was just curious.
Oh, yeah, you just wanted to mention that.
A little bit.
All I can tell you is this teddy bear and I are going to have a lovely date, okay?
Go for it. I'll be watching. Thursday night, Packers traveling to the Bears. What do you got? Or I meant not the Bears.
Lions.
I meant the Lions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I have the Lions for this game.
I do as well. Jets at Dolphins. I have the Dolphins.
I was going to say, you got the Jets? No, I got the Dolphins.
Okay. Falcons at Vikings. Kirk Cousins going back to Minnesota.
A revenge
I have
game.
the Vikings.
I have the Vikings as well.
Saints against the Giants. Mr. Riz versus the Giants. I'm going to go with the... Ew, this is a terrible game. I'm going to do the Saints.
I'm going with the Saints as well.
All right. We got the very improved Bryce Young Carolina Panthers versus the best team in football. If they were playing anybody else this week, I'd probably pick the Panthers, honestly. But since they're playing the Eagles, Debbie, I'm picking the Eagles.
We're watching the same game.
I am also going to pick the Eagles.
Okay.
We're watching the game.
Debbie wants to watch the game with me. Debbie, if you make fun of me, if something happens, you will get a fist in your face. Just kidding. I would never. That's so
We
mean
do
of
not
me.
endorse violence.
I know. That's why right when I said that, I was like, oh. Debbie, I'll watch the game with you. I'll give you a shoulder to cry on when the Eagles lose. Alrighty. The Browns Steelers. I got Pittsburgh.
I have Pittsburgh as well.
Raiders, Bucks. I got the Bucks.
I got Bucks.
Jags, Titans. Ooh, I got the Titans.
Give me the Jags.
You probably should pick them if you want any chance. Yeah.
Yep.
Seahawks, Cardinals. Ooh, this one's gonna be tough. I'm gonna
be a good
go with the Cardinals.
I'm going Seahawks.
All right. Bears, 49ers. Wow. That's another hard one. I'm gonna go with the 49ers.
I'm going to go 49ers as well.
Bills, Rams. I got Bills.
I got Bills.
And then Chargers, Chiefs.
That could actually be good.
I'm going to go with the Chiefs. It's in Arrowhead.
I'm going to go Chiefs, but I don't really like it all that much. I think the Chargers are going to make it a really good game.
And then we got Cincinnati and Dallas on Monday night. I think Cincinnati can beat them. I don't think the Cowboys' offense is good enough.
I agree.
Cool. Alrighty. So now we're going to take a quick little break, and then we'll be back really quick to talk about our segment of the week. All right. Welcome back to this week's segment of the week. And just like last week when we were with our fantasy expert, Quentin, we're going to be doing another fantasy starts of the week. We enjoyed it a lot last week. I mean, I enjoyed it a lot last week. I guess you weren't here, but it was very successful because, you know, we predicted DJ Moore, Devon Achane, I don't remember some of the other guys we said, but a lot of them were correct. And so, you know, I was thinking, why don't we do this again? And I know it could help a lot of people because this is the last week of the fantasy football regular season. And so some people need to win this week and make a push to the playoffs. I know you do. So let's go ahead and jump into our quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. So my quarterback start of the week is going to be Joe Burrow. I think he plays Monday Night Football against the Cowboys this week. The Cowboys defense has been a little bit improved the last 2 weeks, yes. But I don't think there's still any world beaters. And Joe Burrow and the Bengals have been dicing it up no matter who they're playing. They just played the Steelers last week, and Joe Burrow played phenomenal against that good of a defense. And now they play the Cowboys. And keep in mind, obviously, the Bengals defense, we talked about it on this episode, terrible. And so if the Cowboys can just score some points to keep this game moving, Joe Burrow can be slinging it all day, and he can have a really good fantasy game for you on Monday night.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great pick. Like, I'm not going to dog on it very much. My pick, Debbie, you can go ahead and throw the glaze gif up there. I'm actually going to go with Jameis Winston in this one. I know it's a little bit of a controversial pick, but if you have Jameis Winston, start him with confidence this week. 3 weeks ago, Jameis Winston had 26 fantasy points against the Saints defense, even in that terrible loss. 2 weeks ago, when they played the Steelers, he only put up 13 points, but you have to remember that was in the snow game, so there was not a lot of throwing, and he still managed to put up 13. And then, obviously, this last week, he put up 33 points against the best defense in football in the Broncos. So, playing Pittsburgh, not in a snow game, I have confidence that Jameis Winston is going to put up a lot of points this week. Caden is not back. So, my next one, I think we're going to go with running back. For the next one, and obviously I feel like this is going to be no surprise to anyone. The start of the week is going to be Saquon Barkley. he's going to do fantastic for you no matter who he's playing, no matter where he's playing. So obviously, if you have Saquon Barkley, you're going to be starting him, but especially if you need to make that playoff push. Though if you have Saquon, you probably don't need a playoff push. You're probably already clinched. But yeah, I have Saquon Barkley for the running back of the week.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and say my running back start of the week. My running back is Saquon Barkley against the Carolina Panthers. I know that if you have Saquon Barkley, you're probably not going to sit him anyway. I'm fully aware of that. But I do think he is going to go nuclear on Sunday. The Panthers defense is the worst defense when it comes to stopping the running back. Bucky Irving last week just went nuclear on the Panthers. And Saquon Barkley has been the best running back in the NFL this season, and now he's going to play that defense. Yeah, give me Saquon all day. He's probably going to run for 1,000 yards on Sunday by himself. So definitely start Saquon. I don't know why you would sit him anyway, but definitely go ahead and start him. And then I'm actually just going to... Have you said your running back yet? Okay. If you guys don't know what's going on, I can't really hear Austin at the moment. Something weird happened. Sorry, Debbie. So I'm going to go... Wait. Type in your chat... Oh, Debbie says don't say that. Type in the chat, Austin, who your QB and running backs were, because I am curious. And while you're doing that, I'm going to talk about my wide receiver start. So my wide receiver is going to be Puka Nacua of the Rams this week. They're going and taking on the Bills. They're probably going to lose this game, and they're probably going to be trailing pretty early on in this game. And when they're doing that, obviously they got to throw. They got to try to compete. And the Bills, they have a good defense, yes, but teams are able to sometimes pass on them. They have to pass to stay in the game. And Puka Nacua, him and Cooper Kupp have kind of been the 1A, 1B receiver core in tandem there in Los Angeles, but Puka has just been a little bit better, and I think that he has a chance to really try to keep the Rams in this game. I don't think the Rams are going to win, like we talked about on our pick'ems, but I think Puka has a chance to really do good this week. And you said you picked Jameis and Saquon. Oh, so we both picked Saquon, so when I was talking about Saquon, everyone had already heard that, so sweet. That's funny.
For my wide receiver, obviously I think that Puka Nacua is a fine pick to make, but for my wide receiver, I'm going to go with T. Higgins. T. Higgins has only played 7 games this season, so there's not a whole lot to work with. But on average, on those games, he has scored 18.4 points on average. If you look at his fantasy history, he has a lot of games of 29, 33, 30. He has a lot of really big games. And obviously against the Cowboys defense, like Caden said with Joe Burrow, there's a lot of room to work with there, especially because Jamar Chase is going to be covered by the Cowboys' best corner, and then that's going to leave T. Higgins. We talk about this all the time. But I have T. Higgins for your wide receiver of the week.
I'm actually one of the dumbest human beings ever. Debbie's probably telling me don't say it. Oh, well, too bad. I am saying it, Debbie. I had my computer muted, so I couldn't hear what you were saying. But there was nothing wrong with the audio. Sorry, Debbie. Debbie's very angry at me, but I just want to let you know, Debbie, it wasn't your fault then. I just told you, so you're welcome.
Not technical difficulties.
It's not technical difficulties. I just muted my
difficulties.
computer. Debbie, you are saying some very cruel things to me right now on the chat. But my tight end start of the week is Brock Bowers. He's been the number 1 tight end all season, just kind of like Saquon. I don't know why you wouldn't start him this week, but the Raiders are going ahead and playing. Who are the Raiders playing this week? This has been such a good episode, you guys. The Raiders are playing the Bucks. That's right, the Bucks. So they're probably going to be losing in this game, and they're going to have to pass, kind of just like the Puka Nacua situation. And who's their only option to kind of throw the ball to? Brock Bowers, and that's seemingly worked the last couple of weeks. He just went insane last week against the Chiefs, so I think it very well could happen this week against the Bucks. And Tommy Tremble, the tight end for the Panthers last week, he's not very good, but he had a great week against that same Bucks defense. So,
yeah, I have the same pick for tight end as you do. Obviously, he went for 30 fantasy points last week against that Chiefs defense. So, I mean, he's probably not going to put up 30 again, but, I mean, he's for sure going to put up, 15, 13, somewhere in there. Well more than a tight end normally gets you. So, I'm very comfortable picking Brock Bowers.
Awesome. So there you have it. If you have Joe Burrow, Saquon, Puka Nacua, or Brock Bowers, or Jameis Winston, or T. Higgins, go ahead and start those guys this week in your fantasy game. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of K&A Football. I know this was a longer one, and I know this was a sillier one, but, we made it. Whether that be technical difficulties or muted cameras or mics or computers, I should just stop talking and end the episode. We will see you guys next week for week 14 recap.